The youngest billionaire on Earth is 20 years old, and she has never worked a single day at the company her fortune comes from. $1.1 billion. From a stake she was born into, there are 35 billionaires under the age of 30, worth $92 billion combined. Here are the 10 youngest, and one question rides down the whole ladder. What happens when the fortune arrives before the life does? Number 10. Pedro Voigt Trejes. 23 years old, $1 billion. Remember this surname because it is going to haunt the rest of the countdown. Pedro's billion comes from WEG, a Brazilian company most people have never heard of, that quietly runs the modern world. Electric motors, the things spinning inside factories, elevators, wind turbines, and water pumps on every continent. It was founded in 1961 in Jaraguá do Sul, a small town in southern Brazil, settled by German immigrants, by three men, an electrician, an administrator, and a mechanic. Werner Egon Geraldo. WEG. The electrician, Werner Ricardo Voigt, had learned electronics fixing radios, and the workshop he co-founded now generates around $7 billion in revenue a year, with factories in more than 10 countries. WEG never made a phone, never made an app, never appeared in a headline you read. It just made motors, better and cheaper for 65 years, and became one of the most valuable companies in Brazil doing it. Pedro is one of 7 Voigt heirs on the billionaire list at once, sharing a combined fortune of about $9.5 billion. 7 billionaires, one grandfather's company. Keep counting the Voigts as we go, and keep our question in view. Pedro was a toddler when this fortune was already unstoppable. What is left for him to do with it, except exist? Number 9. Kevin David Lehmann, 23 years old, $4.9 billion. Here is a strange sentence. Kevin became one of the richest people in Germany at 14, and it was legally binding. His father, Günther Lehmann, was an early backer of DM Drogerie Markt, Germany's largest drugstore chain. Thousands of stores selling shampoo, baby food, and vitamins across Europe, with revenue in the range of 16 billion euros a year. The chain was built by Götz Werner, a former drugstore clerk who broke every rule of German retail in 1973 by discounting everything, and who became famous later in life for arguing that every citizen should receive free money from the state. In 2017, Günther simply transferred his entire stake to his son. Kevin was 14 years old, no press conference, no explanation. German commentators noted that early transfers of business stakes can carry enormous tax advantages under the country's inheritance rules, which may be part of the story, the family has never said. When he turned 18 in 2021, he entered the rankings as the youngest billionaire on the planet. He has never worked at DM. He reportedly has no plans to. The stake sits there, growing, while he lives as privately as a person worth almost $5 billion can. So apply our question to him. The fortune arrived at 14. What is the rest of a life for, when the scoreboard already reads 4.9 billion? Numbers 8, 7, and 6. The Mercor Three. 22 years old each. $2.2 billion each. Now for something completely different, because these three actually built it. Adarsh Hayamath, Brendan Foodie, and Surya Midha were high school debate partners in California. Hayamath went to Harvard. Foodie went to Georgetown. All three dropped out. Helped by the Thiel Fellowship, the program that famously pays young people $100,000 to skip college and build something instead. What they built is Mercor, an artificial intelligence company that recruits doctors, lawyers, scientists, and other experts, and pays them to train and evaluate AI models. It is the hidden human labor behind the chatbots everyone uses. Every polished answer a model gives was shaped somewhere by a person being paid to judge it, and Mercor became the marketplace for those people. By late 2025, investors reportedly valued the company at around $10 billion, one of the fastest climbs in Silicon Valley history. Each founder's stake, roughly $2.2 billion. Surya Midha is the youngest of the three, which makes him the youngest self-made billionaire in the world. Do the math on his 22 years. That is about $100 million for every year he has been alive. But here is the caveat their rung carries, and the inherited ones do not. Their billions exist on paper, inside a private valuation, until the day the company sells or lists. Can a fortune that young survive contact with reality? The heirs on this list never have to find out. The founder's will: 3 names, 1 company, 0 inheritance. On this list, that makes them the exception. 23 of the 35 youngest billionaires inherited every cent. One more thing about this under 30 club, because it has a rule nobody can escape. Last year, the group's combined wealth was $152 billion. This year, it is $92 billion, even though the club grew from 30 members to a record 35. Where did $60 billion go? Nowhere. Its owners simply turned 30. Every fortune on this list comes with a countdown attached, and the clock started at birth. Number 5. Kim Jung-youn, 22 years old. $1.5 billion. Her father was Kim Jung-ju, a legend of South Korean technology who founded Nexon in 1994, one of the giants of online gaming. MapleStory, Kart Rider, Dungeon and Fighter. More than 80 live games played obsessively across Asia for decades. Nexon helped pioneer the free-to-play model, games that cost nothing to start and everything to stop, the business idea that now runs most of the gaming industry on Earth. He died in 2022, and his 2 daughters inherited stakes in the family holding company. Jung-youn, the younger, holds around 9%, and overnight the sisters became 2 of the richest women in South Korea, in a country where the youngest fortunes are almost always male and almost always corporate. She has never worked at Nexon. Neither has her sister. There is something almost fable-like here, a fortune built on games, passed to daughters who never played the business itself. The money plays on without them. Number 4. Clemente del Vecchio, 21 years old, $6.8 billion. The richest person under 30 on Earth, tied with his own older brother, and his father's story deserves a full video of its own. Leonardo del Vecchio grew up in an orphanage in Milan because his widowed mother could not afford to feed him. He apprenticed as a toolmaker, lost part of a finger doing it, and in 1961 founded a small eyeglass parts workshop called Luxottica. That workshop became Essilor Luxottica, the largest eyewear company in the world. Ray-Ban, Oakley, the frames in half the world's opticians. There is a reasonable chance this man's company made the glasses on your face right now. By the time Leonardo merged his company with the French lens giant Essilor in 2018, he had built one of the largest fortunes in Italy, and the empire keeps finding new futures. The smart glasses Meta sells to the world are built on his family's Ray-Ban frames, which means the 21-year-old at this rung quietly profits every time artificial intelligence gets strapped to a human face. He died in 2022, and his stake in the family holding company Delphine was split with notarial precision, 12.5% to each of his 6 children. Born of 3 different relationships and the same to his widow. Clemente was 17 when his share landed. Through Delphine, he also holds pieces of 2 Italian banks and the Insurer Generali, a portfolio most fund managers would retire on, attached to a teenager's name. From an orphanage to 6 billionaire children. 1 generation, that is the entire arc. And notice the year again. 1961. Luxottica and WAG, founded the same year, an ocean apart, by men with almost nothing. 65 years later, both companies are minting 21-year-old billionaires. Now the ladder gets younger and the fortunes get stranger. Number 3. Livia Voigt Trejes, 21 years old, $1.2 billion. The Voigts again. Told you to keep counting. Livia holds 3.1% of WAG, a slightly larger slice than her cousin Pedro's. When she first appeared on the World Billionaire list in 2024, she was 19, a university psychology student, and for that year she was the youngest billionaire alive. Reporters camped on her social media. She said nothing, finished her classes, and let the headline pass. She has no seat on the board, no office, no role. Her older sister Dora is on the billionaire list too. The company simply pays out, decade after decade, to the bloodline of the electrician who founded it. And WEG's shares have been among the best performers on the Brazilian exchange for a generation, which means the fortune grows faster than the family can age. And here is the twist that sets up our finale. Livia has already lost the title of youngest billionaire, not to a stranger, to her own family. Number 2, Johannes von Baumbach, 20 years old, $6.4 billion. The biggest fortune of the youngest 2 and the quietest company on this entire list. Johannes is an heir to Boehringer Ingelheim, a German pharmaceutical giant that began in 1885 when Albert Boehringer bought a small chemical factory with a few dozen workers in the town of Ingelheim, and which remains entirely private 140 years later. 53,000 employees. Operations in 130 markets. It is widely described as the largest privately held drug company in the world, and it has never sold a single share to the public. That refusal to go public is exactly why the family keeps producing young billionaires. No outside shareholders means no dilution, ever. The profits from medicines for diabetes and lung disease flow back to one family tree, generation after generation, and the current chief executive is himself a von Baumbach. 4 siblings sit on the billionaire list together: Johannes at 20, Franz at 24, Maximilian at 28, each worth around $6.5 billion. They run the company across generations the way other families pass down a farmhouse. Ask our question here and it sounds different. When the fortune is 140 years old, is it even yours? Or are you just this century's caretaker? Johannes was, for a while, the youngest billionaire in the world. Then, this year, someone edged him out, younger by just 7 weeks. Before I show you who, the promise: if this ladder of inherited time and money has gripped you the way it gripped me while researching it. Subscribe now, because the next countdown is the mirror image of this one. The 10 richest self-made billionaires alive, no heirs allowed, every fortune started from zero. Now, the youngest billionaire on Earth. Number 1. Amelie Voigt Trejes. 20 years old, $1.1 billion. A third Voigt, the youngest billionaire in the world, is another grandchild of the Weg dynasty, holding a 2% stake in the electric motor company, worth $1.1 billion. She is 7 weeks younger than Johannes von Baumbach. That is the entire margin. 7 weeks of birthdays separate the top 2 spots on this list. Amelie has no board seat, no executive role, no public profile to speak of. By every account, she is simply a 20-year-old whose name appears on a shareholder registry next to a 10-figure number. The motors spin, the dividends flow, and the fortune compounds whether she thinks about it or not. Run the arithmetic forward, because it is the most unsettling number in this video. A fortune growing at ordinary market rates doubles roughly every decade. If Amelie never works, never invests cleverly, never lifts a finger, 1.1 billion at 20 becomes something like 8 or 9 billion by the time she is 50. Doing nothing for 30 years may quietly outperform almost every self-made career on Earth. So, the question we carried down the ladder: what happens when the fortune arrives before the life does? Here is the honest answer from the 10 names you just met. For 3 of them, the Mercor founders, the fortune was the life, built at $100 million per year of existence. For the other 7, the fortune is a birth certificate. It was earned by an electrician in a Brazilian workshop, a toolmaker from a Milan orphanage, a chemist in 1885, decades before any of them were born. The youngest billionaire on Earth inherited her money from a man who wound motor coils by hand in a Brazilian workshop. The wealth did not skip a generation. It skipped a lifetime. And the 35 members of this under-30 club, all of them combined, control less than 1/10 of what the single richest man alive holds by himself, which tells you the real hierarchy. Youth gets the headlines, but time still owns the money. If you want to see what the opposite looks like, subscribe and come back, because next I am counting down the 10 richest self-made billionaires on the planet. Fortunes built from nothing, including a man who slept on the floor of his own factory on the way to becoming the first trillionaire in history. That story is next.